Welcome to the last YouTube session of PS HS6240. What I want to do is I gave this job talk on Thursday, but I know a lot of people couldn't make it, so I want to kind of give it over again just so you have an idea of what I was talking about. And as I mentioned to the students on Thursday, the handful that were there, I see myself as a resource going forward. So if you have questions about jobs, working in the intelligence community, whether you're in this program or a year and a half from now when you graduate, or you want to just grab coffee or a drink or anything, I am available. I see myself as available. I can't speak for every professor here, but I think as tuition-paying GW students, I think you're entitled to that. So again, take advantage. Don't hesitate to shoot me a note. Don't hesitate to need a recommendation or reference or something like that. If I like you and I like pretty much everyone in this class, I won't hesitate to do that. So we're going to talk about these issues. A lot of questions on military transitions, but I'm going to go through them forward because they're still applicable if you're not military transitioning, and then just some of the interview techniques I've seen. So top 10 military transitions. A lot of these are, again, I've worked with wounded warriors, I've worked with colonels, I've worked with privates, I've worked with the whole spectrum. So these are some of the errors I see. Factor in everything. The military pays you well, and they give a lot of benefits that the private sector does not. Don't copy your OER, officer evaluation report, fitness report, what have you, into your resume. People, on the other hand, are probably going to read it, and when they see signed for $50,000 of property, that's a bullet that doesn't make a lot of civilian resumes. So that's kind of a red flag, and no one really cares that you signed for $50,000 worth of property. Get a professional niche resume. They can translate your military experience into what a defense contractor needs, what private sector needs. I would pay for one, or, a couple $100, and then I would do it on my own from there. No one to have formalities. This is for the senior officers there, senior non-commissioned officers. No one has aides in the private sector. No one has even secretaries in the private sector. Do your own travel voucher is what it comes down to. A lot of people have this Queen of England mentality. I don't say a lot, but senior officials or senior officers transitioning tend to. Understand the benefits. Know what each companies provide. Know what a 401k match, HMO, PPO, things that you're not used to. Know what they do when you transition to a new company. Know your worth. Use the website glassdoor.com. That's a favorite one. If you haven't gone on it, go on it now. Search it. See what they talk about salaries. They talk about work environment at various companies. For the transitioning captains or O3s, expect a salary cut. I know there's a few of you in this class, except for defense contracting. It's easier in the civilian world, and sometimes it's harder. This is a hard bullet to give, but I'm gonna say it out loud. It's easier in the sense that you're not on a ship for 6 months or deployed to Iraq for 9 months. So there's definitely benefits, but it's harder in the sense that in the military, no one asks, your salary is this. You better be bringing in that plus more money to the company's bottom line. No one in the military asks that. Your immediate supervisors don't control your salary. In the private sector, federal contractor, even in the federal government, someone's going to say, he makes this much money. He better be bringing in that much more. Someone's always going to ask that question, especially if you work for a federal contractor in the private sector. You have to earn your worth every day. And that's harder. I'll be honest. It's probably harder when you're under that much scrutiny. Get inside your boss's head, make his or her life easier. This should be a no-brainer for most of you. And they don't expect automatic promotions and assignments. This is one people don't understand. It's a lot more fluid in the military. There's no career ladder, or in the civilian world. There's no real career ladder. People move up and down in positions, but they're on their own. They have to find those positions out themselves. So if I were to do it, if I were to make a recommendation, is to come in as a contractor. Federal employment, it's very hard. The process is very delayed. It's not easy to get in. The contractor is probably the best way to go. Use the GW network to work with various companies that have GW alumni there. All the big companies, particularly in the DC area, are going to have GW alumni, and most are probably willing to sit down and have coffee with you. They might not offer you a job, but may want to. If you're a fellow alumni, they might want to talk, pick your brains. You can pick their brains and see where they go. And in addition, the big companies, Booz Allen, they're more likely to pay for a clearance or sponsor you for a clearance because they can afford it than smaller companies. And if you're good at the job and they like you, oftentimes they'll hire you internally because they know you're doing well. So that's contractor. That's the best way to put your foot door. And then the federal side, again, there's more opportunities to advance. There's fellowships, ability to change an organization. Fed tends to pay lower, but that's not always the case. But contractor you tend to have more flexibility, less job security. But I've worked on both sides, and I'll say if you do a good job, people will hire you. Just like any other place. A USA Jobs resume, this is mine. This is just an example of one going forward. It looks a lot different than a resume. It's a lot thicker, a lot more wordier. And then an interview, again, be sure you have a tagline when you go into an interview. I am better than the other 10 employees because I have a master's degree and I have a, whatever background you have. Those two halves bring a certain forwardness that you might not have in other employees. That sounds very well in an interview. Have something that separates you from the pack. Check the website for the company. Don't be too informal. I'd be surprised, shocked even, how many people go into an interview, and I guess people are told, don't be like it's the military. Don't stand at attention, be a little bit more relaxed, but then they start calling the interviewers by their first name and using dude, those things come up far too often, surprisingly, at least in my book. And then always explain how you'd be value added to the company. You're going to increase sales, increase process. How would you do it versus anyone else? So I want to just talk about the final. Again, it's really easy, the final. 2 sections. 1 out of 2 questions in the first section, 2 out of 3 questions in the second section. So 3 questions, 3 hours to answer 3 questions, about 500 words per question. There's no gotcha questions. And you can kind of see it there, what I'm looking for in the final. And I'll just pause for a second so you can finish reading it. It will be released next Friday. And so the topics, these are the topics. The final will come from these questions. So it's not a huge deviation from the questions that were asked in the discussion section. If you did the reading, you did the discussion section, you're not going to have a problem with the final. So as I mentioned, again, good luck on the final. Good luck with the final paper for those who still need to do it. It was a pleasure having you in class this quarter. As I mentioned at the onset, if there's anything you need, do not hesitate to ask. Whether professionally or in the job search. So good luck in the rest of the program, and I'll see you guys at your graduations.